This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day. Carefully crafted for you by humans, so meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me on the Fully Managed podcast. Shamil, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you. So, today, I just want you to start by telling us a little bit about yourself so that the audience can get to know you. Anything on your business journey up to this point that you think would be relevant to share, inspiring, anything that you think would be fun for people to know. And so we can get to know you better and then we can get to chatting.
Fair enough. I've been in the digital marketing space for about 12 years. I initially joined a company, like a digital marketing agency in Toronto, Canada. In about a year and a half, the owner gave me a minority partnership and obviously under obligations. And we worked together for 7 years or so. And then we ended up splitting and Denovo was formed. So at the time, we had a good run at it, and we had a number of clients, employees, and I was doing a lot of legal work, so a lot of lawyers. He was doing a lot of medical, so when Denovo formed, I had to start from scratch, right? My digital marketing, my domain. So I thought to myself that it would be a good idea to focus on the legal field, and we kind of branded in the beginning initially, right, with almost exclusive focus, although I must say a sizable, like 50% of the business was not coming from law firms. Mm-hmm. So we pivoted that way. Ironically enough, we split up in December, and it was February, March when COVID hit. So it was a rough ride, but initially we targeted the lawyers, but then we kind of broadened our horizon and started working with. Essentially, now we focus on three vertices. Legal is about 50% of the business. That's our huge focus. We also have probably 15% medical, right? A lot of dental, and the rest would be related to home improvement in one way, shape, or form. It just happened that way where we had a strong profile and it just grew. And so even on our website, we kind of try to focus on these three niches. And in my experience, it's it's always better to do less. So we kind of we have strong case studies, knowledge of the industry in those three, yeah. So now we're about 20 people. We've been like this for 7 years or so, right? So since we split or so. So yeah, things are going well. We're humming along. Now we have AI upon us. So Google always throws curveballs at us with algorithm updates. Mm-hmm. But we haven't had such a distinct event, I guess, right, or a series of events as the introduction of OpenAI and various LLM models that impact our industry, right? So it's been going on for some time now, and we are living in an interesting time where we're adjusting, right? But also the product that we're offering or the services we're offering are adjusting with it, right? Like everybody's talking about AI optimization, and we are trying to not get lost in the conversation, because I feel like a lot of people have, the longer they're in something, they get more lethargic and they don't move as fast, where we're trying to be pretty aggressive and forthcoming with what's happening and optimizing our business and obviously our clients' business to accommodate the new times.
Yeah, I can understand that battle that a lot of agencies kind of have with AI because, you don't want to rely on it too much, and then you maybe risk maybe not understanding it entirely, or maybe people might miss a personal element that you provided before. But I do think that for more than anyone, an agency that is less than, like, say 200 people probably benefits the most from these tools, because it kind of can be helpful as like an additional person, kind of not really a full person, because you need to check their work and it's not as optimal of a thing or entity, I guess, because there's so many different ways of using it, that we really want it to be at this point. But to be able to incorporate it into your work and get those tedious things out of the way, I think it's really vital for
You
that.
see, that's the thing that I realized early on because initially it's so overwhelming. You open
Mm-hmm.
up your YouTube and there's like, thousands of videos about what they do with it. But then I started segmenting it into, okay, this is all noise, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is it like? Which specific functions am I interested in that I could see AI help me out with? And analysis and like we've been doing content and using AI with content for some time, so we've got that under control, right? I'm talking about outlines, research, graphical tables, knowledge data. But then there's new platforms coming out like Perplexity, right, or Gemini's deep search function. So I would argue to you that they're more beneficial than ChatGPT. Although in my experience, ChatGPT still writes better. So
Huh,
the
that's
the the,
interesting.
te- the text itself, right? But the research and resources could be done. And again, like we have a client that uses Perplexity Spaces where you can educate. You could literally upload up to 50, documents, and they could be large size documents of text, and you could create your own kind of custom knowledge hub. So whenever you ask it questions, it would, use those resources plus the internet. So you could see how that could be useful for like construction, maybe not as much, right?
Mhm.
Because it's general knowledge overall, right? But for legal space in a particular niche, right? Like if you have a lot of content on the website and it's well written, you could see how you can upload that content and create your own kind of knowledge hub. So you could use it to draft additional articles, right? To implement it into conversations with AI bots, right? What I found is that almost like a head of each department should do this rather than like me as a CEO because like I don't, my graphic designer, is great, but like she would know better of what she could use and she would be interested in like the tools that are at her disposal to make her job easier, just
Yeah.
like it is with a content management team, just like it is with a SEO team that does outreach and research, right, with my account managers. So I don't code personally, but like apparently, I have friends in high positions and they're telling me that in a year or two, they're going to cut their developer numbers significantly simply because they're going to be obsolete, right? Even earlier, right? You could simplify their job. So I feel like every single aspect, we don't do crazy coding, right? We build sites, websites for the most part. We're not building custom applications.
Hmm.
But you get my point, right? So content, link outreach, analysis, right? And then maybe how you automate it and put it all together in the flow, right? Where you customize specific prompt sequences where not only it will, do research, do the outline, write the content, but then maybe even upload it on a certain website, right? Or so I feel like you have to understand where you can really make impact because otherwise it just gets too overwhelming. And yeah, with limited time as it is in a day, right, between running the company, doing business development, addressing emergencies and stuff, so it becomes a challenge. Sometimes you have to exhale and almost strategically do less in order to achieve more and actually achieve something. Because I feel like informational paralysis hits us, really, really quickly.
Yeah, it can be very overwhelming. The AI noise, so many tools coming out that, like, could appear to be helpful, but are maybe too complicated or not necessarily fine-tuned. It is something that is such an adjustment. And I do appreciate what you mentioned about like letting your departments like individually determine what like the gaps are, because there is like they know best of what would help them like more optimally than maybe if you were just like, we should try this because I've seen this tool and it's so cool.
The challenge, the challenge is that just like everybody else, we get defensive as human beings,
Mm.
right? Like all this thing sucks because anything new requires change and requires a perception shift. So, while we have team members that welcome it, right? It's almost like my main task to motivate them, be more aggressive in their search, right? To realize that it's happening. Do you get my point? Like, so somebody who's like, I'll give you an example, content writers are very defensive, right? And then like content managers, generally speaking, have already been using AI. So now it's like if the new AI is better than what they're using, again, it's another change that they have to adjust, although they,
Yeah.
for example, been writing using ChatGPT or, been using it. So it's a continuous evolution because I can see the self-defense mechanism in people's psyche hit,
Yeah, it's like
with
kind of a fear of what you don't understand, a little bit of that, especially if you're so used to doing something a certain way. Learning a new thing does take time, and I think a lot of people are worried that when something new is introduced that could maybe even is proven to help a process that is tedious or takes more time than without this than with this tool. But
absolutely.
just learning is something that is only daunting if you have a certain workload that, you think this interrupts. And I think that a lot of people are like, I don't want to learn a new thing because this wastes time. But if it saves time in, the grand scheme of things, then sometimes it is worth it. But it's just getting
It is. It's the need. Like if you think about it, the AI change forced us to find time because like you're doing your regular job, and now all of a sudden you need to free up time. And what I find frustrating personally is that like I can't do. I just had a call with a law firm, and they agreed with me. They're like, in the morning we do our most attentive work where we need to read stuff and think, and then in the afternoon we take meetings, right? So I feel like most people can only have certain focus time a day, and for me to learn a new thing personally, not everybody's like that. I need to free up my time, right? Where I'm still capable to read, where I'm not interrupted with like continuous interruptions, you know what I mean? And like it's almost like a third type of activity. I'm not doing something like I'm not reading and editing or thinking, right? And analyzing, and I'm not, responding to emails and messages and inquiries. This is like I almost prefer to do it in the evenings, right? Like, but after a break or on the weekends, because the regular stuff you can actually, when you read it and learn it, you take the information in better because you're not running, through your regular day routine. Do you get my point? Like it requires almost like another dimension of comprehension where you're like reading it, it's new information, and you have new pathways firing of how I could use this, right? It's not related to your day to day. It's not related to your day to day.
It's something that you almost have to, like, that's why you need to have the motivation to want to learn it, because it's almost something that you can't necessarily learn in, fit into the mind of your work. If, like, I think I kind of understand what you're saying is, like, it's almost, it's almost closer to a hobby of learning it, like, that time that you give for it.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. It has to be something that you can't force yourself to do it. You have to be wanting to do it and looking forward to it, because if you're forcing it, it's like that's what I'm saying. We can't, like, you find a new wave of inspiration to do it. Like for me personally, it's hard to do this during my regular work hours because my head is preoccupied with other things. I'm in a different mindset, so to speak. Even if I have the time, like I'm preconditioned to be in a different mindset, where this is almost, as you said, you have to treat it like a hobby, like a desire to do it.
Yeah, it's something that you're learning a new tool in order to fit into your workday is something that should hopefully be exciting, but if it's not something that excites you, then maybe it's not the right tool or maybe it's not the right time.
Absolutely.
There is definitely that hesitancy. I think now there's much less, but when for example, like a year ago, this podcast kind of started around this time. There were still people I was talking to on the show that were hesitant to involve AI in their business at all or their agency because it was still kind of new. It wasn't completely new, but incorporating it into our day-to-day was still new. And even now, it's getting more accepted. I think that the change that I've seen over time of now, I don't think I've ever had a conversation with someone on the podcast that was like, I'm so adamant about not using any AI incorporation into my agency. Whereas beforehand, there were people that were hesitant about it. There were people that were very much preaching that, you know, personalization is something that people want the most. And I think that's still true, that people want to see that level of personalization, but AI, using it as a tool doesn't necessarily have to get in the way of clients seeing, you know, your personal efforts.
Two things. So number one, you're kind of stuck and you're screwed if you're not using it, right? Like that's a reality. Like as a business owner, you will get left behind, right? It's like a Kodak and film, right? Like they didn't innovate to digital, and Kodak doesn't exist anymore, I think. So number two, I feel like in a time of crisis, and like people are going through different stages in their company growth and their personal life, right? Like if somebody's been just started this thing out, right, and like they've finally narrowed down the pathway and they're getting clients, and all of a sudden this AI thing happens, right? Like it causes them to pivot. Same thing, like people might be tired or exhausted, or imagine having a big organization, 100 employees, like I'm not there yet, but like you're 50 plus, you've been at this for some time, and now all of a sudden, right, like you have to change everything. Some people, in different stages of life, but I'm saying it's definitely an opportunity if you treat it right. I feel the mental shift of saying like, okay, as much as I don't like to, right, because I need to free time, retrain, give directions to departments, adjust, right? Maybe this is the opportunity, because if we could do it this way or quicker than others, right, we could ride the wave, if it makes sense, right? Like be at the forefront. So I feel like a lot of people are taking that approach, right? And I mean, so are we.
How do you balance that? Okay, wait, better yet. How do you recognize when maybe someone is pursuing something AI related that isn't necessarily worth it?
Out of my team?
Yeah.
We had once a week calls, right? Well, like biz dev calls, and they usually talk about our business development strategy or what we're doing. And the heads of my different departments, like people involved, are on the call. So close kind of monitoring. But I also talk to them all each individually, and we've had a couple of out of the blue calls, like as in Shamil will learn something new or stumble upon something, and I would call a meeting Monday morning, right? I'm almost like, like a father, son or daughter relationship, where if you embed a particular thought all the time, that like, okay, John, you look into this. I looked at that one, like, listen, man, I know it's right, like maybe rubbing against the grain, but we gotta adjust, right? I believe in you. So I'm saying, like, encouraging them and closely monitoring them to discover new ways, because I realized early on I can't do it. I need their help. I'm not able to kind of look at content, look at graphics, look at videos, and I encourage it in believe it or not, we even have like some subcontractors that we work really, really closely with, where they're sharing information and we're sharing information back. And I'm creating that environment where everybody's like holding hands, right? And as soon as they pivot away, I'm just like, okay, like I don't know, like it's great. You don't want to discourage them, right? But I don't know how useful it
Yeah.
is now. Maybe later on we could take a look at this, right? So maintaining that focus.
Yeah, exactly. I think that maintaining focus while also not shutting down ideas is like a good balance, because there is something that, I don't know, I'm a firm believer that there are no bad ideas. They're just maybe not right now ideas, or maybe not right for this campaign ideas, or
It's also separating from the noise, because like I get excited on the weekend. I'm not thinking about work, and I'm just like randomly watching, AI videos about some stuff like that came out, and I'm like, wow, that's so cool. But then like I exhale and I'm like, wait a minute, like is this actually useful? And what I
mhm.
realize is that it would be useful for my vendors. So I have videographers, and there's like crazy tools to make videos now. Like ChatGPT has one, and Microsoft obviously released the VO. But it doesn't impact my work. It impacts the work of my service providers that work for me, that I outsource this work to. So
Mhm.
you get my point. So I feel like almost it's disruptive in the field itself, but I could zoom in and have my stuff that I need to focus on, while the others, like banner making, right? Like for example, in visual creation for various ads, right? Before you'd have to thumbnails, videos, like, I outsource that kind of work, right? Like we have people that we've worked with for years that are technically, they're subs or employees. I mean, we have both, but they're the ones that should be worried that they become obsolete. Because if somebody tomorrow comes with a bigger, better quality product to me and say, hey, let me do the creatives for you instead of so and so, guess what? So I feel like, I realized that early on, and that's, I only focus on stuff that concerns us directly,
Mhm.
because we get excited about, cool things that like,
New shiny object syndrome.
yeah, like VR, like silly example, right? Like VR and VR games and how realistic they are, right? I don't play video games. I haven't played a video game in 25 years, So like to me, as exciting as it is, like while the technology is progressing, it doesn't really impact my life on a day-to-day basis, right? Unless it becomes useful for work or for one of my hobbies. So this is the same thing, right? Like I'm saying, the thing that makes the headlines is not necessarily, what you should be focusing on, because again, there's just overflow of information nowadays.
Yeah, there's so many things that are, it's similar to, the noise in just marketing in general, of the idea that, you can see an ad for something that's really, really cool and really, really eye-catching, but is it something that's for you? I mean, like, that's the um almost manipulation aspect of marketing, is that it might convince you to want something that maybe you don't need, but that's exactly what everyone is kind of trying to do with marketing, is
I
trying to
I've
convince
reached this
you.
pinnacle. You're talking about like retargeting, remarketing.
Mhm.
I had a conversation with my videographers the other day. We were contemplating about starting our own YouTube channel, and like I was, about to hire a gentleman to be the face of that channel, right? And we were having a conversation with him and his team, and he said something to me. He said, "Did you notice how the quality for thumbnails and short format video in the last couple of years changed drastically?" Like if you think about it, 5 years ago, everybody focused on YouTube channels. Stefan Graham, Cody Sanchez, Rogan, right? Like everybody like went on YouTube in this long format, right? But like as the short format evolution has been happening, before they were just cuts of the original clip. Now, I'll notice like how the quality is increasing, because the market is changing, but it hit me where it's just so much noise and information. Before I would select my YouTube videos and there was really quality out there. Now somebody's famous and then there's like 10 other guys do the same thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, and I find what's frustrating is that I'm not talking about educational videos right now. I'm talking about like podcasters,
Hmm.
right? With the exception of like the ones that invite other people on the show and stay neutral and just have such depth. I'm talking about Rogan, like Joe Rogan, because he has such depth. Like he could get insane amount of like crazy people on his show that are interesting. I feel like a lot of people that have decent podcasts and insane followings, their undertone and their thesis is just, it's the same thing. And all the topics of their conversation, more or less, is the same thing, right? Because we as humans are like, I could sit here and talk to you about myself, yeah, and I could say for hours, but in reality, after X amount of hours, you'll know everything about me, right? So it's the same thing that's happening, in my opinion, with a lot of like content creators, that you'll have guys that have original message and original content, and you'll have like 100 people that try to replicate them, and out of that 100 people, you'll have certain ones that are great, but their channel and their messaging underlying is all more or less hitting the same. Jordan Peterson, Cody Sanchez, right? Like they're just like Huberman. I don't know if you know Huberman Lab. Like I'm just, these are the generic ones. So I feel like it's harder and harder to sift through the nonsense to find quality information. And because as soon as we open any platform, it's so saturated. Where before it was like YouTube, now it's short format YouTube, right? Which is now integratable with people double down on Instagram stories, right? I'm on TikTok, right? So all short format if you think about it, right? So the short format videos now are present in half a dozen of platforms, where before it was maybe an Instagram reel, right? So now we have TikTok, we have YouTube short formats. I'm saying, I think even Facebook has like short clips or reels that you could watch, and it's just so much noise. I reached a point this year where I'm like, less is more. I feel like I want to think first of what I need, which kind of information, and then specifically go and find an answer to the question that came up in my head, because otherwise it just gets too overwhelming. I just, and like all the thumbnails look great too. That's a problem. But they all say the same thing, right? Or like most of them, like they don't really bring original value. Content creation is right. Like I feel like it's I don't know your experience, but I feel like it's just like it reached a point where there's just so much, and it looks good and it feels great and it's interesting to read, but like how much more original stuff are you going to talk about AI than the other 150 people are going to talk about AI? That's
No, I completely 100% understand what you're saying. It is very noisy, and what's so weird about what like this evolution of content and the digital age is that everyone who is anyone, regardless of whether they're famous or that they can even provide value to people, can have a platform. Like anyone can have a platform in this day and age and can make money off of it, even if it's not necessarily objectively original content.
You're
um
absolutely right.
and it's
But I
it's
think that's going to end. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
no. It is very it's like a double-edged sword, because it is really, really awesome that anyone is able to speak on something. I think that it is really great that not just people of a certain stature are able to, gain a following from, their views or how they display their knowledge or, what they do. And I think that that's great, because it's, you don't just have to have money to be able to display information, but a
It
lot of people.
empowered a lot of people, 100%. Gave
Yes.
opportunities to people.
But the other problem is that now anyone who's anyone can develop content and a following and a platform,
And
and
it,
that's not always valuable or
and I
original.
feel but you're right. Some of them can just position it and just get followers and likes to make some sort of money. And I guess it's still good, especially if they're not well off, or it elevates them to a certain, level of wealth. Um, I'm saying it's better they do that and make some money than make no money, right? But I think we're in agreement that it just became to a point where there's just so much, and out of all the good ones that make some money, and there's obviously like the 1-2 percenters that make, that have a crazy following, but there's so much rubbish. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like also, right, where people kind of like try to be an influencer and it's just like it goes nowhere. What I find interesting, I just thought about this. So you know how you could summarize videos on YouTube? Like you could literally tell ChatGPT to like watch this video and give me points. And I don't know if any of the AI platforms or LLM platforms do that by default as a knowledge base. Because think about it, they scroll through the internet right now and they read the text and documents, and I think some of them you can even take into account PDFs. But I think that if you could educate, like before, if you and I wanted to learn something on a topic, like a guide how to do this, I'm guilty of this. We would watch a video, and right, we would find the best looking video with the best views, with a guy with a thumbnail that works for us, and we'd watch 2 or 3 videos to try to find an answer, right?
Mhm.
Right now, I would argue to you half the time, unless it's very specific, I can ask ChatGPT, and I think that and it'll provide me relatively good answers, right? Like if I was looking, man, how to change the key battery on my car, right? Like, how do I take the remote apart? Right? I'd watch a YouTube video. Right now, I could get text instructions, and I'd still watch YouTube video because the guy is showing me. I feel like when LLM models can read the content that's in the videos and provide visualizations, and it's going to happen, I feel that all that noise is going to be gone. Because right now, yeah, you'll still watch content, like for reels, whatever, right? And I think the masses will. But if you wanted to really find an answer and use like YouTube as a knowledge source, the day that LLM models would be able to analyze video content and, take in information, right? Because then now I don't have to watch these videos. I could literally, either, I could do it now. I can ask them, like, look at these 4 videos, find me the answer. How do I do it? Right. So I feel like that would save so much time. And then, there's going to be a shift of certain traffic going, towards that. Just like with anything, I feel like, it's cool and then it becomes obsolete. Right. Facebook. Remember, I don't know how old you are, but I remember when Facebook came out, everybody was like nuts. And then, now it's older demographic that's on Facebook for the most part.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then Instagram, it was cool and hot, and TikTok was just for kids. But now, like, TikTok is getting that audience, right? So there's more and more platforms, more and more video creators. And if you want to stay relevant, you have to be on more and more platforms to circulate your content, right? Because you want to hit the TikTok audience, hit the Instagram audience, and they all have slightly different formats, right? But I'm saying that, like, why do people do it, right? Like you're either entertaining somebody because they're bored, or you're providing them some sort of a value. Like, let's say you're, I feel like the question answer component of that is eventually going to go downhill, because I feel AI models would be able to, Shannon, imagine you ask it a question and it gives you a video of how to do something. Like, that's just, and it like cross-reference it with all the guides that are written and that are video guides.
And generates
right?
its own.
Yeah, it's like any problem that you want, anything you want, give me step-by-step instructions with references, visualizations, right? It's done. So that's what I like. That's the way I think about it.
Yeah, it's almost like, even though this wasn't necessarily why it began, as far as I'm aware, it almost feels like ChatGPT is like a response to the noise of, like, this filters through the noise. Because even Google, like, I was talking to someone about the phenomenon of, like, the difference of why people use Google and when they go to ChatGPT for, like, a different problem. And Google, obviously, like, a lot of people don't know how to search with Google effectively. Like, the average person probably doesn't know how to do that. In that they will put a question in Google rather than, like, keywords. And obviously Google identifies those keywords and whatever puts out something, but maybe it doesn't answer your question. And obviously with the AI element, sometimes it does now. With ChatGPT, you ask it a question and it understands it like a human being and filters through the knowledge. And I think that what ChatGPT almost feels like now, and what it's becoming, is that people don't want to, like, the patience is thin now. People don't want to look through all the noise to find the best thing now. And the best thing might not always be what has the best views. The best or the most views or that looks the best.
But the answers are still sketchy for some very detailed questions, and they're not always true. And I also found that I got a lead, and we had a call, on Friday from a dentist who found me using ChatGPT, and his query was weird. It wasn't what I would ask. I forget what it was, but like the way he phrased the question, right? So the optimization process, we're not going to get into that, is somewhat mirroring SEO in a way. It's different, but the stages are the same, right? Or
Agreed.
the components are the same to optimize to show up there. But my point is, I feel that still, like if you needed to find a cake shop next to you that's close by because you have to go to your girlfriend's birthday and you don't have time, you want to pick something up, you're not going to ask ChatGPT, in my opinion, right? Because map integration, user experience, Google sees where you are, right? If you have the location turned on, you could see the reviews. You could, we're used to that search. So I feel like if you're researching something major, which is like find me the best lawyer, or how do I do this medical procedure and which clinics do it, yes, right? Or find me the best because I'm thinking about it. Where if it's like I need a plumber to come in and fix my faucet, right? Like where it's still Google, and I feel like that. But you're right. I think that's gonna, as AI evolves and as people's integration evolves, I think that's gonna change the way they interact and the way they function. These two.
Yeah, 100%. I think this is a perfect place to end because we're a little over time. But I like this ominous note of what AI might become in the future. I think it's not necessarily ominous in a bad way. I think it's just an interesting way of being future looking about what it will be capable of. And I do agree with you that I think it'll be an even better filter through the noise in the future.
I'm curious though, people are afraid right now that everybody's going to lose their jobs because of AI. And I just hope, no pun intended, that these people don't become even more influencers and podcasters. Because then
Yeah, I
it'll be
lost my
way.
job to AI. Here's my story.
Exactly. So thank you, Shannon, for having me. I
Thank
really
you
liked
so much.
our
This was
discussion
very
and
fun.
the way it went. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you everyone watching and or listening. Do not forget to check out other episodes, and I hope you got to learn from this one just as much as I did. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend, and of course, subscribe.